Good afternoon and welcome to The Rundown. I am your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, the 28th of July. Trump's national security advisor tests positive for the COVID-19. Florida child hospitalization from coronavirus surges 23% in Florida as schools statewide must reopen. Biden's BP shortlist may actually be coming up a little short. Here's why. And drugmakers refuse to attend the White House meeting after Trump issues an executive order on drug cost. And National Guard commander suggests that the Attorney General Bill Barr lied about gassing protesters for Trump's photo op. A record number of black women set to run for U.S. Congress. And John Lewis becomes the first black legislator to lie in state in the U.S. Capitol. Let's get to President Donald Trump's national security advisor, Robert O'Brien, tested positive for the COVID-19, according to officials. O'Brien's diagnosis marks the highest-ranking Trump administration official known to have tested positive. It is unclear when O'Brien last met with Donald Trump. Their last public appearance, however, together was over 2 weeks ago during a visit with the U.S. Southern Commander in Miami on July 10th. O'Brien is experiencing mild symptoms and is self-isolating and working from a secure location off-site, according to an unnamed source. O'Brien's test results were given to reporters before his staffers were formally informed. Several National Security Council staffers told CNN that they were not informed that O'Brien tested positive and learned of the news from the media reports. O'Brien is one of Trump's top aides, recently returning from Europe when he and the top deputy met with officials from the UK, France, Germany, and Italy. The National Security Council chief was accompanied on a trip to Europe by the Secret Service, agents, staff, and multiple reporters. O'Brien was not either social distancing or wearing a mask. Hey, and welcome to your favorite part of this segment, in which I tell you my personal views of the stories of this afternoon. I'm channeling my Rachel Maddow. Thought I'd give you something a little different this afternoon. So hopefully you guys like it, and thank you so much. So moving right along to this story, Trump's national security advisor tests positive for the COVID-19, aka the coronavirus, aka the virus of the century, clearly, that shut everything down. But what does that all mean? So here we have it in a nutshell. The National Security Advisor is one of Trump's top officials. It's pretty close to the president himself. That National Security Advisor job, anybody in that personnel, they meet with the president daily, on a daily basis. However, this president, being that he doesn't read much, I'm not sure how much interaction this National Security Advisor has with the president, as previous ones have had probably more interaction, but still nonetheless that person is around the president quite a bit. This puts the president in more danger of actually having contracted the virus. Me personally, if you ask my personal thoughts, which I know you didn't, but I'm going to tell you anyway, I think he already had it, or he does have it. He's just not going to say. I mean, the man lies so much. Clearly, if he said he had it, half of the nation wouldn't even believe it because he lies so much. So, I don't know. I personally think he's already had it, or if he does have it, we will never know because he doesn't want to, he thinks of it as a sign of weakness or what have you. So there you have it in a nutshell for this one. The National Security Advisor has tested positive. However, none of his staff knew. That's another thing. None of the staff were even informed that he had tested positive. They found out through the media when the media let the cat out the bag that he tested positive, which is very telling to the nature of the people in that orbit. Because how do you not tell your staff, who is then interacting with their own families and putting their own families at risk? The lack of respect for that is outrageous. But, what can you say? So many times you could talk about the same thing, or how the person conducts themselves, or how this administration conduct themselves, and everybody just turn a blind eye. So, oh well. Just weeks before schools must open across the state of Florida, numbers of new cases of hospitalizations due to COVID-19 have surged. On July 16th, the state had a total of 23,170 children ages 17 and under who had tested positive since the beginning of the pandemic. According to the Florida Department of Health, by July 24th, the number jumped to 31,150. That was a 34% increase in new cases among children in 8 days. And more children in Florida are requiring hospitalization. As of July 16th, 246 children had been hospitalized with coronavirus. By the 24th, that number had jumped to 303. During that same period, the death toll among children in Florida went from 4 to 5. A 9-year-old who died from coronavirus had no unknown underlying health issues, families said. The surge in child COVID-19 cases and hospitalization comes amidst the rampant debate over whether children should return to the classroom this fall, if they should continue remote learning. Researchers in South Korea found that young people between the ages of 10 to 19 transmit the virus just as easily as adults. A White House correspondent task force for the coronavirus coordinator, Deborah Briggs, has repeatedly said that scientists are still studying how quick children under the age of 10 can spread the virus, as many of them have stayed home and away from their peers during this peak months of this pandemic. The test positive rate among children has gone up from 13.4% to 14.4% between July 16th and the 24th, according to the state health department. The test positive rate for children was primarily high in Martin County at 25.3% and Miami-Dade County, which had 19.6%. But the state has ordered schools to physically open next month. For some districts, that means sending children to school as soon as 2 weeks, and that has some parents, educators, and even doctors on edge. This story was a bit disheartening and sad to know that there's a rise in coronavirus cases in children in the state of Florida. Amidst the debate of reopening schools, in a week or two, the state of Florida will be opening schools again. Even amidst this rise in the numbers during this pandemic, I just find it to be, I can't even put into words the lack of humanity that's being displayed. It's more about numbers and dollars and a perception rather than worrying about the true nature of the person, and to really throw kids into this mixture who, as been reported, have been amongst their family since this pandemic started, and to then now expose them to new people, new surroundings in which they could contract this deadly virus, and then pass it on to their family members and other personnel and other school workers, just to, make something look good. I have no idea. I can't even tell you what the reasoning is, other than if the kids are, or people are going to school, somehow some money is getting transferred somewhere, because this is the only thing that the only language that this president and many of his people in his administration talk. They talk money, dollars and cents. What do I get from this? So I don't know what the push is to sacrifice these children to this disease, to sacrifice more families, more teachers, more school personnel overall for a couple dollars. I find it to be egregious. I think schooling remotely can do just fine. You can use all that extra money that you're trying to throw at schools or school board members or whomever is trying to cash in on this. You can take that money and give some of these kids iPads so they can do their remote learning, or some kind of tablet, computer, internet for the year. I don't know. You could find other ways to allocate a lot of these funds that you're pushing for schools to open. The Democratic presidential nominee wants to pick someone who is like him, or at least the way he saw himself as vice president: loyal, trusted, experienced, apolitical, and someone he can build a bond with. As Joe Biden conducts a series of interviews with the final list of potential running mates ahead of his August decision, his biggest concern is that it's someone who's on the list whom he's had a previous deep relation. According to conversations with dozens of Democrats, a mix of elected officials, former campaign advisors, and outside strategists, most of whom were granted anonymity to share their candid assessments, Biden pines for a partner who could be to him as he was to President Barack Obama: a friend, a confidant, a subsumed his political interests to those of his boss. All right, so here we go with Joe Biden having a hard time to picking his running mate. Yeah, of course he's having a hard time picking his running mate. Trust and believe. Joe Biden may be a better Donald Trump, but let's not confuse it. He is Donald Trump. He's just a nicer version, in my eyes. I'll say that, in my assessment. He is a nicer version of Donald Trump, more clean. He says gas, but they won't be totally like, oh my God, he said that. There'll be something like, did Grandpa just say that? Okay, Grandpa, you can't say that. Not like this president, where people really sitting there with their mouths gaped open, like, did he really just say that? I don't know. I know we can't do 4 years of Donald Trump, and I'm not saying that Biden is perfect, because he is not. He comes from the same cloth as a Donald Trump. You can tell from his earlier years serving as a Delaware legislator that he kind of believed in a lot of the same things, bus segregations and things of that nature. So he has it in him, but it is good to see that people can elevate and change their thinking. So I'm not, you can't let your past dictate your future. So I'm not going to hold all that against him, but I am going to be very aware of the things he's done, the things he's passed or he's promoted. And I'm also going to be just as aware of some of the things he's trying to change. And with that said, him picking a VP is difficult, of course, because on one hand, more than likely, he wants a running mate to be a man, more than likely. He may have come around to having a running mate as a woman, but initially he probably just thought a running mate as a man. He, as far as a person of color, I see it, but I don't, because I almost see his relationship with Joe Biden, his relationship, with Barack Obama as like that one person of color that you got to know and you're like, oh, okay, they're not that bad. And so you really get to know and really, entwine your relationship with them, and like, okay, you're cool. I can deal with you. But on the basis of anybody I come in contact with, I can immediately attach myself to you like I do because I don't view you in that way. I don't see it. I think this will be more of a pushing out the vote. So if it is a person of color and a woman, it'll definitely be to really secure that vote, especially the vote coming from the African American women. And shout out once again, because there's another story coming up later that talks about that, but shout out to the African American women who have time and time again showed up for the change that they wanted to see where it counted in voting. A White House meeting with top pharmaceutical executives that President Donald Trump promised for Tuesday is off. 5 industry sources familiar with the discussion told Politico that 3 said that the drug pricing discussion was canceled because of the major drug lobbies reeling from Friday's clutcher of executive orders on the topic. Drugmakers and Trump were slated to discuss an executive order signed on Friday but not yet released that would order health officials to release a plan linking Medicare payments to certain medications to lower the costs paid abroad. The provision, known as the Most Favored Rules or Nations Rule, had been brought down by drug industries and some patient groups that say it would curb innovation and reduce drug access. Trump said on Friday that drug makers would have a month to present a better option to the rule. The drug lobbyists, known as Pharma and Bio, were reluctant to send representatives from their members' company. Many of them multi-billion-dollar manufacturers of the world's best-selling medications and vaccines, after conflicting reports last week about whether the White House would include the rule and little information to date about what the new rules would look like. 3 people familiar with the discussion said that several pharmaceutical companies believe that the Most Favored Nations rule had been dropped ahead of Friday afternoon's announcement. The hours before Trump's drug pricing event, there was panic and chaos back and forth that even left many of the health officials. Bio is the lobby representing many small biotechnical companies developing therapies that are said to be the Most Favored Nations rule would hit its members the hardest. Many make types of physicians' admissions medicines, such as expensive cancer and arthritis infusions, that would be affected. The Favored Nations rule has ranked conservative groups along with the industries and patients' organizations. The president on Friday left the door open for alternative options, saying that if the drug makers can present a better plan, we may not need to implement the 4th executive order, a tougher order. Okay, so in this story, here's when, you are beholden to people who vote you into office and, they kind of hold their nose and let you do your business, and then it's time to pay up. And this is basically somewhat of that same situation. So drug makers have been making tons of money thanks to the Trump administration basically knocking down every regulation that the Obama administration and some that the Bush administration have implemented to protect the patient from the drug companies and the also the physicians from the drug companies as well, from overcharging and overcharging for regular drugs, for generic drugs, for experimental drugs, all of that. Most of those have been deregulated, which means they've been gutted. So the drug makers have been able to pretty much have free reign on what they wanted to charge without, without any pushback. So here we go, fast forward. Now, a lot of times I say, we have to be aware that things are changing, even though they're not always promoted or put in the news. On Friday, an executive order went out that the drug makers had to basically cut back on their pricing to make drugs more affordable. However, before this particular meeting that was scheduled on Tuesday, I guess on Friday, before Trump made that announcement that he had signed this executive order, behind the scenes, they were talking to the million and billionaire drug makers to have them come for a meeting to discuss the process of doing the executive order and how much were they willing basically to negotiate. And after that conversation, then Trump did the interview and said, signed the executive order and said, well, yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm putting this in to lower drug costs. And of course, the drug makers, frantic and chaotic, going back and forth probably with staff members and staff from the White House, a few of them said no, they're not going to show up because that's not the negotiations or the process of negotiation they was promised. So once again, here we have a situation where we're looking at the bottom line. He's always on the lookout for what he can get out the deal. And at the same time, the drug companies and drug makers, the ones who I'm sure supported his 2016 run and all of his deregulations of a lot of things, now are calling on him to say, okay, hey, well, why are you doing this? Okay, now we're going to pull out and we're not going to come to the White House and meet with you. And being this is an election year, he might want to have thought about that one before he went and did that executive order trying to force the drug company's hand in going along. So, for the drug companies at this point, they have leverage as well. If they don't have to endorse him at all for president, they can go with someone else or just stay out of it altogether. So I don't know if this was a smart move on the president's part, but we shall see. So the meeting for Tuesday is canceled, but you never know. There might be a new one on the horizon. So stay on the lookout for that. Hopefully the seniors and a lot of people who use a lot of drugs, to make their day better, who have underlying health conditions, can get some relief from the mounting cost of prescription drugs out here. The National Guard commander who was present when authorities cleared Lafayette Square of protesters last month is expected to contradict Attorney General Bill Barr's account of events. In a statement posted to the House Nature Resource Committee's website on Monday, Major Adam DeMarco says that the demonstrators were behaving peacefully before authorities displayed excessive use of force against the protesters. While Barr is on record insisting that at 7 p.m. curfew was not moved so the president could conduct a photo op in front of St. John's Church, DeMarco tells a different story. According to DeMarco, Park Police issued a warning at 6:20 that Lafayette Square would be clear, but the warning was issued 50 yards from the protesters. And as far as this story is concerned, why are we not surprised? Bill Barr, Attorney General Bill Barr, is the president's private fixer. but he's supposed to be working for the United States. So, yes, this story has come out that Bill Barr more than likely lied, that the protesters were in fact gassed in Lafayette Square. This was about a month ago to clear the way. That's the park adjacent to the White House, to clear the way so President Donald Trump can walk over there and hold the Bible and wave it in his hands. And say nothing, just to go over there, hold the Bible and wave it. They showered the protesters and some reporters, because there were reporters there as well, with tear gas and some rubber bullets or rubber bean bags or something of that nature, and tear gas as well. So, again, I'm not surprised. Bill Barr has lied constantly. He lied during his Senate confirmation hearings that he would not interfere at all with the Mueller investigation in any way. Obviously, he did not. He found every little way he could as far as saying what could be redacted, which is the stuff that's blacked out that the public would not know, to jumping out before Mueller was to complete his investigation and say there was no wrongdoing found in the report at all, so on and so forth. He has continuously lied to protect this president, and I'm wondering when the actual Republican Party, the true party of Lincoln, as they like to tote, will show up and call a thing and call these people out for blatantly lying to the American people while trying to cover up wrongdoing and corruption. Joyce Elliott, an Arkansas state senator who is seeking a U.S. congressional seat in November, was the second Black student to attend her local public high school. The first was her older sister. If elected in November, she will be the first Black lawmaker in Congress from Arkansas ever. On the campaign trail in June, Elliott attended a demonstration against racism in White County, which is more than 90% white, and spoke to the attendees in the shadows of a Confederate monument. The November election is a chance to change our history, she said. As the U.S. grapples with the deadly coronavirus pandemic that has disproportionately sickened and killed Black Americans and overhaul over police brutality, a record number of Black women are running for Congress. Elliott is one of at least 122 Black or multiracial Black women who filed to run for congressional seats in this year's election. This figure has increased steadily since 2012, when there was only 48, according to the Center for American Women in Politics. People are becoming more comfortable with seeing different kinds of people in Congress. You don't know what it looks like to have a powerful Black woman in Congress until you see powerful Black women in Congress. Black women are nearly 8% of the population, but 4.3% of Congress, according to a report here by the Center for Women and Politics. Black women voters showed the highest participation rate here of any group from 2008 to 2012. Historically, Black women have been more likely to win in majority Black districts, but many are running this cycle in majority white or mixed districts, some which have had previously voted for Republican. Sorry, as I said earlier, and I'll say it again, shout out to the Black women who have been a voting bloc and pushing for the change that they all want to see in their respected communities. There's been a push of black women in the political arena since 2012. Seeing the first African American or black first lady in our nation's history was a driving force for some. And then seeing all that's going on in their communities and nothing being done about it, or communities in which the majority of the population is of black and brown people, but the people that hold the power or the purse string, in the community are not people of color. And, they don't get the same representation. So it means something to see someone that looks like you representing you in some of the highest branches of our government. And a lot of people recognize that. Over 122 black women will be running for congressional seats coming this election. So in 2020, there will be 120 African American legislators running. So, and of course, we're gonna, just don't vote for them because they're black. But again, if you look at their platform and their platform speaks to you and speaks to the disparities in your communities, in your neighborhoods where you live, then why not? What do you have now? Like, in the words of your good old president, what do you have to lose? I mean, because at this point, you pretty much know that your life's on the line. It pretty much is. We are not valued when it comes to healthcare. We are not valued in the eyes of the justice system. We are not valued anywhere. So, as many people have said, sometimes you can't complain about having a seat at the table. Sometimes you got to build your own table, and the only way you can build your own table is at first you gotta get in the door. So you gotta get in the door to buy the wood to get the table. So I applaud these women for stepping up and actually going through the door to start the process in creating their own table. So we could stop wanting to be a part of something that doesn't see it for many of us. So congratulations again to those women running for congressional seats. The body of civil rights leader and longtime House of Representative John Lewis was driven past the Lincoln Monument and Washington, D.C.'s Black Lives Matter Plaza on Monday on its way to the U.S. Capitol. Lewis, who died on July 17th at the age of 80, is the first black legislator to lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda. Dozens of lawmakers waited in social distance chairs to pay their respects to Lewis, some wearing Good Trouble masks referencing Lewis's famous quote on civil disobedience. Lewis's body was carried across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama on Sunday after a memorial service in his hometown of Troy just days before. Lewis was beaten by police while leading a civil rights march over the bridge named for a segregationist 55 years ago. Vice President Mike Pence and former Vice President Joe Biden are expected to stop in the Capitol, but President Donald Trump will not. House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn will move to rename a House-passed voting rights bill after Lewis on Monday. Two Republican House members urged the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, to take up the bill. 17th of July, we lost a giant in the civil rights movement. Representative John Lewis passed at the age of 80 on July 17th. Lewis, who is well known for the what's known as the Bloody Sunday March. It was the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama that he crossed on that Sunday for the right to vote. A peaceful march on the right to vote where he almost lost his life. Lewis, however, is the first black legislator to lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda. His body lays in state there now. Uh, Great man, did a great service for the United States, for people of color, and continued up until his last days. He just was recently at the Black Lives Matter Plaza, where he gave a speech about protesting and civil disobedience. And I think it's insightful. I know sometimes people say sad, he lived a great life, he lived to be 80, 90, but it's still sad because you lose a piece of history. It's nothing like being able to go to or talk to or listen to or hear the words from an elder. It's very enriching. It's enlightful. It's insightful. It is, it's like digging back in history. It's a personal recollection of exactly that person's experience. And that's something that you can't necessarily get from a book when reading it, to hear the person themselves discuss different things about their past and what they see for the future. So that's why it's a bit of a sad thing, but he did live a great life, and he is well honored. Of course, the petty president that we have, he is not going to attend the viewing service, the Capitol Rotunda, for whatever reason. I mean, I wish that he could gain a sense of dignity and kind of leave the them and us alone, and sometimes actually just be a president for once. But of course that's not in his makeup, so oh well. But John Lewis, a great icon, will be deeply, deeply missed. And once again, thank you for watching CCN Midday News. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that notification button so you will never miss another news update. Have a great day. Peace.